Who's on the team? Okay, subject matter experts, industry experts, Bank of Human Capital. Now, we briefly touched on this before. This is an area that you're very, very strong in. I'd like to hand it on over to you to talk to a couple of these points. And then finally, Jim, afterwards, if I'm sure you've got some insight on this too, but certainly first, Iona.
I'd actually just like to flow on from, or to continue on with what Mark was talking about just there, because it does directly relate to who's on your team. One of the things that we need to consider in any business is our product life cycles and our product relevance. So if I was looking at, sort of buying my own business, I'd also be assessing that as well. I'd be assessing what we sell, because business is transactional. So what we need to actually do as part of looking at any business purchase is to look at the product, to look at where it is in its life cycle, and look at how the product is actually dealt with, how it's produced, how it's managed, how it's distributed, and how relevant it is to the current market. It's very easy to purchase any business that has a great profile. The business goes great for the next 12 or 18 months, but the product the business is actually producing and distributing, or the services it's providing, at the end of their actual life cycle. So one of the things that we need to do as we need to look at is those products or services, or the combination of both, and how relevant it is. So who's on our team? Who's our industry experts? Our industry experts aren't just operations related, but they're also industry related, and they also look at demand, distribution, and they also assist us with market intelligence. Because if we're looking at purchasing any business, we need to know what market we can take it into. Obviously, we're going to purchase it to grow it. We're not going to purchase it to wind it down. So they're the people that we want involved. And at the moment, sort of in any business that's static, and I can sort of recall a number of times that I've done this, where we look at our workforce, and we look at our workforce planning, and we look at our product lines, and we look at our services that we provide, and we look at the processes that we go through to make those available and to distribute that, and we look at our human capital, and we look at the skills base and the knowledge base that we have, and we ensure that we have, or we look at whether we actually have a multidiscipline team. Reliance on one key focal person is a mistake, because if we take that person out of the equation, we need to know that other people can step in and can actually undertake, parts of that person's role. So we need to look at the team structure, we need to look at the organisation structure, and we need to look at its effectiveness. So there's a number of things that we need to draw on our industry experts for, and that is product, market intelligence, our production or our distribution processes. But we also need to look at our internal knowledge base. If we're going to change any of that or grow any of that, do we actually have that multidiscipline team that are able to take the business forward to where that we're looking at purchasing to the next stage of its development? All businesses go through a cycle of their own. So you've got the first 12 months where things are up and down. So in the first 5 years, it either really succeeds or it just stays static. And then often there's a cycle at the end of it where we've been so busy maintaining our business that we've overlooked the fact that our products may have become, or our services, there may be a decline. They may not actually be as current as they should. So we need to actually also look at bringing somebody in who is a business consultant that can actually look at the organisation as a whole and tell us where it is in its life cycle. And from there we can actually plan, and we can plan what we're going to do, how we're going to do that, and we can develop it, and we can re-strategize basically. So our strategy is incredibly important. Without a good strategy and without being able to strategize to that level, we can't take the business to its next iteration, if you like, or into its future and grow the business. I'll just toss back to Mark here, because Mark is very good at strategy. And Mark, would you like to add something here?
Look, I think there is process and structure that supports it, and that's typically in a governance type environment. The process of business planning, the process of strategic planning, operational planning, risk analysis, market analysis and all that, ideally is formalised. The greatest ideas come from good individuals that challenge each other, that work together, that get the aha moment and conceptualise a real opportunity for the business. And I suppose when someone buys a business, they're buying the future potential. And as Jim said really early on, it's not just the mathematics of that process. It's not just, we're going to pay 3 times EBIT or whatever it might be, because that's all good and well. And then you look at the risk and factor and whatever, but you'd much prefer to find a really innovative team with a great insight and support that process. I'd much prefer to support 2 guys working, innovating and developing something from their garage, right, that turns into Microsoft, than I would to buy a mature business that someone is looking to exit, maybe because they see a potential issue on the horizon that is not obvious to the potential buyer. So look, to Iona's point, it's structure and it's people, right? You need to get the people together. They need to have, deadlines to put together the business plan, go to the board or to the executive committee to actually develop that. But ultimately, you need the opportunity to really think and have great ideas, and that comes from people. And that's external people, internal people. So there's a whole ecosystem that you have to develop to actually be innovative in your organisation.
Can I just add a couple of things there, if I may? And I want to try and build on the great things that Mark and Iona have highlighted this morning. It's very interesting. There's been quite a considerable amount of work done on teams and groups and things like that. And I just want to share a couple of little things to think about, because as leaders, as people listening to this, you need to take your thinking to another level. Tyndall, Stwaksky and Jacobs did some work in 2008. And while that's not important, it's important because they looked at the whole area of what they call shared mental models. And that is, they said that leaders and people that you want in the tent, in the tribe, in the team, need to have a shared mental approach to the problem. And that is very challenging. They looked at things such as knowledge, expectations, conceptualization, cognitive representation, and they looked at those things when you put people who you want to come and join your team and see how they bring those sets of skills in a group environment. Because when we talk about a team, in a business with 10, 20 people, there are a multitude of varying subgroups of teams. And the key to success in buying that business is to ensure that there is mental vision sharing that brings about unity and cohesion. And there's a lot of theory around cohesion theory and all of that. And while that might seem like, well, how is that related to business and what we're talking about today? You would agree with me that all the speakers today have very well highlighted as a theme the importance of human capital. So when you put an individual with someone else, you create a team. And then when you multiply that by a number, you still have a team, but you have a complex array of interactions. How do you achieve the goals? How do you get those things achieved if you're not able to massage, work with, share, and identify those key goals and outcomes you want for today? And that's no different when we finish this webinar. What do you want to achieve from today? All of us, the 4 of us speaking with you today, are a team. There's no question about that. Sharing with you strategic output, strategic objectives to give you quality information to think about, would you buy your business? And that's very important to think about those things in the context of group.